Hello, friends, and welcome to Monday's edition of the Kings of Anglia podcast. We have actually pressed record for this one, which is a tremendous start. That, friends, was a little video and audio. If you are watching, you saw a video as well. A little tribute to Kaden Jackson there, whose career, of course, has gone from being over in a casket to just like the dead man himself, The Undertaker, coming right back with a vengeance. And obviously, we're going to talk about that in depth today. I'm Mark Heath. I'm your host, and with me, three of my fellow Kings. One very red-faced Roscoe. Rossi, you put together that lovely little video and we said, right, let's start the show. You started playing it and I was screaming, you've not pressed record, Ross. There you go. Thanks for doing that. You're in a lovely little setting today. Very scenic. How are you?
I'm very well. Yeah, I'm on a little retreat. But that little intro there was a bit of throwback to back in the studio times where I used to always forget to record. And I had to stop here and go, this has been a great show so far, but the record button's not hit, so we've got to do that all again.
Yeah, at least we didn't get half an hour in as we used to
yes.
in the good old days. Mike Bacon, I'm going to come to you next because I'm betting you were pretty baffled by that video. Are you familiar with that? The Undertaker, the wrestler, his very famous, iconic theme tune?
Well, no, I'm not actually. It sounded like sort of music I hear when I go to my Chinese restaurant on a Saturday night. It was sort of in the background. It was. I haven't heard that before. I have heard of the Undertaker. To be fair, I mean he's quite a very strange looking chap, isn't he? Very sort of dresses very odd, scares kids and things. And but I liked it. Very very good, Ross. And when you pressed record, it's even better. So well done.
I think the Undertaker is about 75 now, isn't he, Ross? He's been around forever. I think his knees are totally gone now.
Yeah, he's retired now. He's officially made that statement that he's done. He's actually been put in the Hall of Fame. Just a little fact there for you. Fun fact of the day.
Excellent.
For WWE. So there you go.
Someone who would be in any Hall of Fame, KOA wise, is obviously Stewie the Dr. Watson. Stu, did you enjoy that little musical interlude at the start? Did you know what was going on?
I did, yeah. I'm not a wrestling man. It's not for me, but I'm aware of The Undertaker.
I am aware of him. I don't particularly like him. There we go. But you don't have to be a wrestling fan. There are some wrestlers, and obviously a lot of people have very, very strong opinions about wrestling. But there are some wrestlers who kind of cross that divide into pop culture, don't they? Obviously, The Rock being number one in terms of now being the biggest movie star in the world. And The Undertaker certainly is one of those as well, Stone Cold Steve. Anyway, this isn't a wrestling show.
Is the Ultimate Warrior still going?
No, he's sadly not with us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mick McManus was my favourite. He was a fantastic wrestler back in the 70s. Old Mick McManus with his little shorts on, but he never really got little speedos on, sort of thing. Really little speedos when they're throwing each other around back in my day, and but he never actually made it into the pop charts. No.
I was going to say you're probably more of your era was like Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks and Kendo Nagasaki and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Excellent. As I say, friends, this isn't a wrestling podcast. Don't worry, you've not tuned into the wrong show. This is the Kings of Anglia Ipswich Town podcast. And Ipswich Town won again at the weekend. It's getting nicely predictable. I used to refer to things being grimly predictable. This is very nice now. Ipswich Town beat Burton 3-0 at Portman Road. A game you'd expect on paper them to win, but those are the sort of games that Town don't normally win. And we're learning lots as we now hit Kieran McKenna's 10th game in charge. We'll talk about that in due course as well. But in terms of ticking stuff off, Stu, I'm going to come to you first. In terms of ticking stuff off that are very un-Town-like, they scored early, then they came through a period of pressure, and then they got a second goal and killed the game off quite comfortably in the end, which again is not something we're used to seeing at Ipswich Town. It is becoming something we are used to seeing under Kieran McKenna. So do you want to start off with your opening thoughts on this game? And obviously at some point we're going to have to talk about the dead man himself, Kaden Jackson.
Yes, everything that you've just said, lots of different elements to this game. Didn't have it all their own way, even though it was ultimately a very comfortable win and it was 3-0, could have been 4 or 5 more. There was that period in the first half where they had to weather a bit of a storm, which was fitting given the weather we've had over the last few days. But we knew Burton were a major set-piece threat. They were everything that I sort of said in the preview show, where they swamp you, they put the ball repeatedly on top of you, they force the throw-ins, the corners, the free kicks, and but Ipswich came through that test. That used to be their Achilles heel again when they came up against the likes of Rotherham and Accrington and physical sides. But since McKenna's come in, they seem to be handling these sort of tests better. And then the quality shows in the second half. As Burton tired, they couldn't keep that intensity up throughout the whole course of the game, and Ipswich put their foot on the ball. The weather subsided. And the quality came through, and that man, Kaden Jackson, was the star of the show.
Star of the show. Should we talk a little bit about Kaden Jackson then, Stewie? Because clearly he was the headline name, man of the match by all accounts. Going back to the wrestling theme, you've got Kaden Jackson in the ring, Paul Cook, Paul Lambert double teaming him. They've lobbed him into a casket at the side of the ring, and we think it's done. And then suddenly that music hits, the casket lid flies off, and Kaden sits up, bolt upright, with his eyes rolled back in his head. He runs onto the pitch and is the star man. So what do we make of Kaden Jackson? What do we put this kind of resurgence down to, Stewie? There's some great quotes from after the game about how previous managers have focused on what he can't do rather than what he can do. And he feels like a footballer again under Kieran McKenna. So you've seen all 10 games, with the exception of Bolton. I think you're away for that one, weren't you? But what are we seeing from Kaden Jackson we haven't seen before?
He's part of an overarching game plan. It's as he said in his quotes, and as you've just alluded to there, his attributes are being used. Football management is about finding ways to get the best out of each player's attributes. At League One level, you are going to have weaknesses. Every player is going to have weaknesses. That's why you're playing in the third tier of English football. But it's about hiding those weaknesses the best you can. And Kaden has got some of those, but also maximising the strengths. And they're playing to his strengths in the last few games. And I think, as McKenna said, in terms of his sort of playing off the last shoulder, his pace, his closing down, he's right up there in terms of the best at this level. So play to that. And that's what Ipswich have done. They did so. I think Wimbledon was the first game that he played, and then sort of took it to another level at MK Dons and has gone up another notch again in this game. He was an absolute menace with his pace. The thing that impressed me the most was that he's added a bit of composure to it as well. He picked out both the assists fantastically. Should have had a hat-trick of assists if Sam Morsey had converted a chance. It's just been so nice to see McKenna kind of pick up these players off the scrap heap and be able to improve them so quickly. Wolfenden's one example, Jackson's another.
Mike, we've always known that Kaden Jackson has electric pace. That's never been in doubt. And sometimes it's been suggested that's pretty much all he has. So what did you see from Kaden on Saturday that you were like, oh, that's a different wrinkle. That I'm liking that from Kaden more than just the guy is incredibly rapid.
Confidence. That's what I saw. That's what I saw in a player who's now gaining confidence. Kaden Jackson's is an easy League One player, easy, competent at that level, probably even higher, to be honest, Championship player if he wants to be. He's been managed poorly, and now he's being managed properly. And that's the difference, really. You don't suddenly become a poor player overnight. I know these old cliches, but they're facts. What I liked about, it's funny because he scored after about 43 seconds, and then, as Stewie alluded to, Burton had some pressure, and Jackson wasn't actually overly involved for quite a period of that first half. He didn't, and as Burton attacked quite a lot, the second half he was almost unplayable. He was just building this confidence. He chased one ball down. He gave the right back. He must have given him 20-yard start and caught. It didn't just give him 5 yards start. He gave him a 20-yard start and sprinted almost past him, I think. That is confidence. That is someone who's saying, I'm up for it. That's what McKenna has brought. And that is McKenna's Premier League experience of mixing with the Ronaldos of this world, which he has done. You don't talk down to Ronaldo. You don't talk down to Cavani. You bring things to their game. So he's brought that into Ipswich. Different players, different standards, but he's obviously bringing that in. And in Jackson, you saw somebody who's being given a chance, probably had his arm put around, McKenna put his arm around him, give him a little cuddle, said, come on, this is, you can do this. And he's done. And that's what I saw, just a player with complete, getting more and more. And as the game went on, he just got better and better. The confidence was just absolutely flowing. Right side, left side. McKenna's got to take a lot of the credit for this. You can't, but of course you've got to give Jackson a lot of credit.
Yeah, I was going to say, of course he has. Of course McKenna's got to take some credit, but let's not take anything away from Kaden himself. It would have been very easy for him to let his head drop, to have sulked, and by all accounts, from what McKenna's telling us, he's always stayed professional throughout all of this. I'm sure there's been some really tough days for him, away from football, but he's someone that's kept plugging away, kept himself in this sort of shape as well. Yes, a new manager's come along and given him another chance, but he's had to make sure that he was in the right condition and the right mental state to take this chance when it's come, and he's certainly done that.
I think the thing is with there's a lot of players this has been a fault of a lot of managers over the years, especially old school managers. Chuck them in the under 23s, go and train with the reserves. That's old school management. That's 1980s management now, but we still had this at Ipswich not too long ago, and yeah, you're right, Stu. I mean, what Jackson's done has shown tremendous professional attitude, which is to his credit completely. But McKenna has, come in with a very 2022 attitude, and I think that's very big.
Yeah, Rossi, I just noticed you were sneezing there. I am concerned. At this point, I'm gonna check up on you because you were sat in the rain for hours. There's a great picture that Steve Wallace sent and I shared on social media of you sat pitchside getting absolutely shat on by the rain, looking thoroughly miserable. And for those who think that what we do is a glamorous job, there's your answer. How have you dried out yet? First of all, has your immune system survived any kind of sniffles that I'm assuming you will eventually develop? And finally, can you give us your thoughts on the game from what you saw from pitchside?
Thoughts on the game: wet for the first 20 minutes or so. To be fair, I was already developing sniffles before the game, so I won't blame me getting absolutely soaked. But yeah, the first 20 minutes was very bad weather. I couldn't even see Kaden Jackson's goal because I wasn't really. I was sort of trying to protect all my equipment, and I looked up and went, "Oh, it's back in the net, film the fans." But no, it was the first 20 minutes probably the worst I've ever experienced in terms of just the rain. Of course, sensible people, they have waterproofs all over, but I have a waterproof jacket, but my jeans, they rookie move wearing jeans. Yeah, I know. They were soaked through. But it's the love of the game, innit? You do it, in all weathers, you just enjoy it. But I enjoyed the game. Yeah. I just got very wet.
I mean, jeans are probably one of the worst things you could wear in a downpour, I'd imagine. They pretty much suck the water in, don't they? You must have weighed about 3 stone extra after the game.
Yeah, I do wear 2 layers, so I do wear some tracksuit bottoms, and then I put jeans on. So I went through the tracksuit bottoms as well. But and my trainers got soaking wet. I was just a very wet boy, to be fair. It was, but yeah, luckily it was a good game. Normally when it's that sort of weather, I remember last time we played Burton. Once upon a time we drew 0-0. I think it was bad weather that time. And but thankfully we saw goals and it stopped raining in the second half. That was I was looking at the clock and that was probably the longest wait ever into the first, until half time. I was like, come on. Every time I looked up, I went, oh, so still only 15 minutes. Oh, it's only gone 20 minutes, but thankfully it stopped raining.
Yeah, and an all-star, I must say, after the game, an all-star game day with all the big names on, minus maybe 1 or 2 who live a bit further away, and everyone to a man very, very happy. Stu, we've talked about Kaden Jackson there, obviously the kind of standout headline from that game. But give us some other stuff from the game that you liked. Who else played well? I know everyone played well, but what else did you like?
Yeah. These are team performances at the moment. This is a team that is some of its parts a well-oiled machine where everyone sort of knows their roles. But I thought Lee Evans ran Kaden Jackson very close for man of the match. Obviously, Kayden gets that because of the goal and the 2 assists and everything we've discussed. But I keep banging on about this in these chats. Do not underestimate how important Lee Evans is to this side. I know it's not the most exciting role in the team, but during that period where Ipswich had to ride out that storm, he was there to head off the line. He was there to sort of scrap away in midfield and give that bit of physicality. And he makes things tick on the ball as well. He played some delicious little first-time sort of deep curling deliveries into the box at times. I think him and Morsey in midfield makes Ipswich a much, much better side. So obviously he's been in and out recently with injuries and illness. Picked up a bit of a knock to the knee towards the end. So I'm really hopeful that that's nothing serious because I think he's an important player for Ipswich over this run-in.
Mike, obviously we've got to talk about your boy Joe Piggott. Another unexpected start. We've talked about people coming in from the cold and doing well. What did you make of Joe on Saturday? It's fair to say he maybe didn't take the opportunity with both hands.
No, probably didn't take the opportunity with both hands. I think it's being fair. His hold-up play was okay. Here's another guy who just needs confidence. If anyone needed a goal, he needs a goal. He hit the post. If anyone needs a goal, Joe Pigott needs a goal. I'd love to have seen him done a little bit more, but he was all over. You sensed he was trying so hard, sometimes trying too hard, and coming to get the ball when perhaps he'd just been best sitting off it and let someone else get a little bit further down the track before he came for it. But I mean, he's one of 4 strong attackers Ipswich Town have right now, and McKenna is determined, obviously, not to let anyone, feel they've got that one wrapped up. Pigott will have loved to have done more. It's no good hiding from it. He'd love to have scored, and he'd love to have his name on the score sheet. But he still does enough for me. A goal, a bit of confidence. Look what confidence has done to Jackson. A little bit of that. And so to me, he's part. McKenna talks about part of the project and stuff. I can't believe Pigott isn't a big part of that project. I'm sure he is. Just like to see him get a goal, really. But he would have been.
I thought he did all right, actually.
Yeah.
And I came away, and Andy wasn't that impressed, and we normally on the same page, Andy and I, but he was sort of saying still not sold on Joe Pigott. I thought he was part of the team structure. I think he did what was asked of him. McKenna talked afterwards about not only did he want him to press the middle centre back, but he wanted him to drop in and do a job on Burton's deeper midfielder, Shaughnessy as well, and stuff like that probably goes unnoticed. It was a fighting performance from him. He put himself about. He talked about the different qualities of the Ipswich Town strikers. He's their best back-to-goal striker. He's their best sort of link man. And I thought he did bits and pieces of that all right, and played his part, played his role within the performance. But Kaden Jackson's goal goes in the first minute, and like you say, his shoulders go back, the confidence comes. If Pigott's one goes just inside the post, then maybe we'd have seen him go up another level. Who knows?
I think the thing is with strikers are judged on goals primarily. They shouldn't be, because there's a lot more to their games than goals. But whereas Bond started the season like a train, scoring goals for fun, and then you've got this little situation here, just a small sort of side play that on Saturday there's Pigott and Jackson both sort of making their way back, getting chances, and Jackson takes it with aplomb. And it feels like Pigott didn't, although, as Stewie Wright said, he did lots of good things, but just a goal would have been nice. But yeah, it was a good team performance, wasn't it? And I echo Stewie saying about Lee Evans, by the way. I thought he was absolutely excellent.
Yeah. Rossi, before we move on from this, a note for Town's defence, the back 4. We say it's getting nicely predictable now, but this is not something that has been predictable for Ipswich Town for a long time. That solidity at the back. I mean, obviously earlier in the season they were conceding goals for fun or not for fun, as the case may be. And in Burton, that they come up against a side with a serious set piece threat. How did you feel like they handled that? Obviously, they didn't concede. Lee Evans with a tremendous goal line clearance. You just feel like Town aren't going to concede that at a time. I mean, it's so unusual to have that kind of stability in the back line and 4 people playing so well together.
Yeah, Christian Walton is the key man in that. He made some really good saves during this game. And those set pieces, they had a long throw as well. And used that in the first half when the weather was very bad. Any goal could have slipped in somewhere. But as I said, Lee Evans, fantastic clearance on the line. But yeah, I can't see where a goal is going to come from an opposition team. 4 clean sheets in a row. When's the last time we saw that? I think I saw a stat. It was back in 2013. I saw that on Twitter, and we've been used to seeing a lot of goals conceded under Paul Cook. Every week we just went, there's going to be a goal conceded. But now under McKenna, that front 4, back 4, are just solid. Wolfenden is thriving. Emerson, the fridge, solid as a rock as always. Janoy, Mr. Consistent. And as I said, Walton made some really crucial saves. And we just can't see us conceding for a while. But no, it's great to see. And I think that is the foundations of a good team, is keeping clean sheets.
Defense wins championships, as your beloved American sports tell us, Stewie. And I think, well, I don't know what state is it, 7 clean sheets now in 10 games for
7 in 10.
Town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remarkable, isn't it? Absolutely remarkable. And they probably had their one little bit of luck in the first half where I think Shaughnessy glanced a header wide, where Walton, it was from one of those long throws that Ross mentioned, and Walton got stuck in a little bit of traffic and it's horrible wet conditions, and he put that header wide. So sometimes you need just those little moments to go your way in games, but you earn that luck, and Ipswich are certainly earning it at the moment. Walton, we're almost saying it in a blasé way fashion now that he's coming up with these big saves at big moments. The one from the free kick, a really inventive sort of low free kick around the wall, and tried to sort of catch the goalkeeper out in the bottom corner, but Walton was there to make the save. And we've said enough about this back three at the moment, haven't we? Wolfenden is just going from strength to strength. Best football that he's probably played in an Ipswich Town shirt, with the return of the M&M haircut at the weekend, the bleached blonde hair, and Janoy Donasian, just Mr. Consistent, isn't he? Right up there in terms of Player of the Year shouts. He really is.
Are there any other notes from this game, boys? Because I want to move on to talk a little bit wider about McKenna's first 10 games. Anything else you want to mention, Mike, Ross, about the game itself?
I think I must confess, I think I felt it was quite strange. I actually felt we were never going to lose this game. I know it's, I actually never felt we were going to lose it. And I sat there at a few home games and, the opposition have been a little bit on top at times. You think, they're going to get one here or they're going to whatever. But it was the first time for a while I just didn't feel we were ever going to lose. I don't know. It was, we 1-0 up from very early on. It's still only 1-0 at half time. But going to say, I just didn't have in my head, Burton were going to score 2 goals. Didn't even remember they're going to get 1, which was lovely. And that was my take on this game.
That again is most on Ipswich Town like, though, isn't it? That kind of feeling of security and safety. Rossi, you were going to say something there before Mike jumped all over you.
Yes.
That's fine. It's fine. Oh God, it has got me. It's got me this weather. We've got to mention Wes Burns. His 9th goal of the season. It wasn't his best game. He fouled with the knee slide there, but then a bit of
that. Yeah, I mean that is one major kind of failure from the game, isn't it? We've seen how the knee slide should be carried out. Lee Evans, perfect. Doncaster, similar conditions. Wes Burns, dreadful. 1 out of 10 for that. Hits a bit of turf and just go face plants, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Needs to work.
He gets
on that
up, he composes himself, and he just forget that happened. That didn't happen, and of course everyone celebrates. But a good finish from him. Of course, Kaden Jackson, great ball to Wes Burns. But he'll always get mentioned, Wes Burns, because he always has good games. But it wasn't his best game, but he got another goal, and just good to see. There's 3 different goal scorers, another thing, which is good to see. We're not relying on one player. Slater came off the bench. He made an impact, I thought, and he got his goal. But no, good day all round in bad conditions. And Town fans were very happy at the end. Big shout out to the Norwegian fans who were there. I think they're at the game on Tuesday night. And also a little shout out to some listeners, if that's all right with you, Heathy. There's Sharon and Paul. They're in the director's box for the game. And when I was going down from the media suite, I heard Ross. And Sharon came over and said, "Oh, sorry to disturb you. I just want to say me and my husband, this is our first game for 2 years. We just wanted to say we're big fans of the pod. So Sharon and Paul, if you're listening, hope you're doing well." And there we go.
Lovely. Welcome on board to the KOA Army, Sharon and Paul. Oh, one more.
And also another guy who sits in the what's stand? Magnus stand, whatever it is. Keith Berry, who's going to have it's going to be his last game for a while because he's getting his hip replaced. So big shout out to Keith. He could be in hospital right now. So there we go.
Hope it goes smoothly, Keith. Let's move on then from that. And it's great to have listeners contacting us during games. Fantastic. And please do keep bothering Ross during games. 10 games in now, Stewie. Kieran McKenna has had 10 games. The turnaround has been pretty remarkable. It's got to be said. I mean, in terms of the form guide, I'm just looking at it now. Town are level in the last 10 games with Bolton and Rotherham, all with 22 points from those 10 games. And we've talked, I kind of hinted a little bit at the start there about things that we're kind of going through and ticking off that Town haven't been doing, killing games off, looking comfortable, not conceding goals, competing in big games. I thought we could maybe have a little bit of a round table about what we've learned so far about McKenna and about Town under McKenna in these 10 games. Do you want to kick us off with some thoughts?
Top of the tree for me would be how adaptable he is tactically, how he's taking every game on its own merits, regardless of where they are in the table. It's not, it's all about us. It's what we do. Forget about the opposition. No, everyone in this division, whether it's Gillingham, Doncaster, Sheffield Wednesday, whoever, have their own game plan, and I will analyse them and try and work out where we can get at their weaknesses. And we've seen that. We've got the stable foundations of the back four, back eight, whatever's in place. But that front three, he's horses for courses, and he's picked not even just the personnel that's picked, but where subtly they play as well. Kaden Jackson was the central striker at MK Dons to try and sort of stretch them, which then created space, sort of bigger gaps behind him for Chaplin and Selina to fall on the ball. At the weekend, Jackson played again, but this time he played sort of more of a wide left role, which was to kind of run the channels a little bit more, and which is where some of the assists came from. So, the tactical adaptability would be the first thing that sort of jumps off the page for me. This kind of bespoke game plan and ability to use the correct attributes for the correct games.
Mike, I want to come to you as a coach, because you can relate to this. It's been a long time since we've really been talking about a coach who's come to Ipswich Town and has improved what he's already got. Obviously, we've talked there about Wolfenden and Jackson and players like that. That, again, is not something that we've seen at Ipswich Town for quite a while, where someone's come in and instead of, well, we've got to buy loads of new players sort of thing, just improve what you've got. Sometimes maybe that's a bit overlooked, isn't it, as a coach these days, because there's so much money sloshing around in football. If you've got a weakness, you buy someone to fill it. But surely if you've got the players already there and you can improve them, that's a great thing that McKenna's doing, isn't it?
Well, it's man management, isn't it? It's the old man management thing that people talk about a lot, but don't really follow it through. What McKenna has done, the biggest thing he's done in my eyes, is he's made a group of players feel they're all part of this. They're all part of this squad. It's a squad, not a team. I'm not putting out 11 players. There's 16 of you, 18 of you. I mean, Chaplin and Selina coming on, with 20 minutes to go on Saturday, as Andy Warren looked at me and just said, this is just unfair. This is bring on subs like that. And it's absolutely right. But Chaplin, your position in the team is not guaranteed. Piggott, yours is not guaranteed. Bon, yours is not guaranteed. But you're all part of it. You're all part of this. That's what I like about it. He's brought tremendous man management to this squad for a very young manager. He's given confidence to people like Wolfenden, and if you don't concede goals, that is a major thing. So you don't mess that situation. You don't change what's going on at the back. Going forward, though, has been Ipswich's problem. Not scoring. Not this front three has been a front four has been a bit of a mishmash all season, really, under Cook. He didn't, people were playing all over the place. He's just come in and said, "Look, you're all good enough. You're all good enough. Any of you could play here. So I'm just going to pick it on pick players on how I see each game. But you're all big part of it, and I think that's what he's bought. He's bought a squad system." A really important squad system rather than a team system. And so Piggott might play yesterday, and he might, take someone like Macaulay Bonne. Where's Macaulay Bonne been the last, he's been in and out after such a hot start. Cook was scared to ever drop him at the start, and perhaps understandably so. But I get a feeling McKenna, if he'd been at the start, even if Bonne had scored 4 games on the trot, if he felt he wanted to change something and drop Bonne, bring someone else, he'd have done that, because he'd have made it into a squad and less of a team.
It's about players having very clear roles. You wouldn't have seen Kieran McKenna trying to sort of crowbar Scott Fraser in on the left side, or just trying to get people. It's very clear that they are part of a defined game plan. And before you'd see someone like Kaden Jackson chucked into the team as an act of desperation, a team that's maybe not been scoring goals. Okay, well, no one else has scored. We'll chuck Kaden Jackson in, and he would have maybe a slightly off day and then get pulled out again. And that must be so deflating when you wait so long and then you get your one chance and you get pulled out. I think, we've seen Jackson come into the team and then drop out of the team. We've seen Piggott come into the team and drop out. But I bet you that was a far less bitter pill to swallow for those players, because Kieran McKenna has pulled them to one side and said, I picked you for this specific game for a reason. Whether you scored or whether you didn't, you did what I asked of you. And another game that is specific for you is around the corner. And if you listen to, I remember, it reminds me of the Class of '92 documentary. and the players all sat around talking about Sir Alex Ferguson, and they said that he had a fantastic way of dropping you, but making you feel really good about it. He'd come in and go, right, you're out the game on for the next 3, but it's because I've got the perfect game for you coming up. Champions League away at such and such place in 3 weeks' time. That's the game for you. That's got you written all over it. That has, and you go out, as they say, players, you'd go out of that office and think like, wow, he's saving me. He's saving me for a big game, even though you've been dropped. And McKenna seems to have this sort of knack at the moment, and you can just see the body language between the pictures that we've got of him with the players at the end of the game afterwards. There's genuine warmth there with the arms around them, and it's really good to see.
That shouldn't work though, should it? That kind of, when we talk about players and confidence, in terms of confidence players, the players at the top of the pitch, the forwards, the strikers, whatever you want to call them, they are more than anyone confidence players. So being in and out of a side and being dropped, like you say, Stu, shouldn't really work. They shouldn't then be able to come back into a side and play well, because traditionally you'd have your head down and you'd be thinking, well, no point. Even if I perform well in this game, I might get dropped for the next game, sort of thing. So kind of bucking that trend, having them all pulling in the same direction, which is what everyone we're talking to is saying. To a man, everyone is saying how much they're enjoying playing for McKenna. They feel like he's improving them, etc., etc. I mean, going back to the rotation, very similar to the KOA pod, isn't it, boys? Constant strength. This is not the pod for you, but Thursday is what I want you to focus on. That kind of thing. Rossi, you've watched all 10 games from Pitchside. What have you liked about McKenna, and what have you noted difference-wise?
Well, he's brought positivity back to this football club. I think town fans, of course, the hope that kills you and all that jazz. You've got to be a little bit cautious, but just positivity again. Portman Road, it feels like a fortress again. I feel like teams may fear going to the stadium before. Oldham and Barrow got draws there. Now I feel, as Mike said, didn't feel like we were going to lose the game on Saturday. Even if Burton pulled a goal back, we would have been still happy days, still going to win this game. But no, that's what I like, that McKenna is making Portman Road a fortress again. We've got momentum, baby, which would normally not what we normally have at this football club. But just everything's positive about McKenna. I just like his interviews. Once again, big shout out to Stuart and Andy for the pod last week. Just a lot of fans were just speaking about that continuously on the weekend because they just loved it so much. But just all rosy at the moment under McKenna. And as I said, I watched him on the sidelines, watching him, hugging all the players. Even Selena, who guaranteed really should be starting in League One, but it was straight away to him at full time. We've got, just Steve Waller got a picture of him hugging him and stuff like that. And I'm sure Selena understands maybe this wasn't a game for him because the Burton are big boys. But no, we've got momentum, which is good to see.
Hutchie obviously being rested today. He's been targeted at Thursday's pod. That's the pod for him. Stewie, when you first spoke to McKenna when he came in, one of the standout lines from his presser, and I think we had it on the back page the next day, was, I want my teams to dominate games. And that was like, whoa, that's like something that managers say and you think, yes. Very rarely, though, does it actually come to fruition. But it's fair to say, under McKenna, that's exactly what they're doing, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. They've had periods of domination in games. I'm really excited about the direction of travel, but there just has to be a little note of caution that, you've said they're winning big games. That I would say that's still a box to be ticked.
I said competing. I said competing.
Competing, yeah. But Bolton, Sheffield Wednesday, MK Dons, I was positive about the MK Dons result, but at some stage, Ipswich have got to start winning those games. So, that's still a little box to be ticked there. The rotation is working, and I'm really pleased it is, because that had the potential to backfire. I'd say at the weekend, I looked at that lineup and thought, is today the day that if this doesn't work, that the conversation could have been very different today. Had that game been a draw, had Burton scored in that period, and had the game not finished in an Ipswich win, all of a sudden it becomes, he's the Tinker Man, he's rotating for the sake of it. What on earth is he doing playing Piggott and Jackson? And of course, that hasn't happened because of the performance of Jackson in particular. But we'd have been back to, Lambert got absolutely hammered for squad rotation and trying to do those sort of things at the top end of the pitch. I guess the difference is he didn't have the same quality to rotate Paul Lambert when you're looking at his options with people like Drinan and Hawkins and people like that. But it's all moving in the right direction quite nicely. There will come a moment where there will be one result at some stage that will really sort of floor everybody and suck some of this positivity out of the air. And then it will be fascinating to see how McKenna, how Ipswich Town respond to that. But let's ride this sort of positivity bandwagon as long as we can at the moment, because Saturday was good, but the games come thick and fast, don't they?
They do. Spoken like a true football man there, Stewie. First of all, how dare you? Quality, Aaron Drinan, not quality. Have you seen what he's doing in League Two, mate? Ripping it apart, ripping it a new one. And when I say, well, yeah, but he's got enough already, hasn't he, for the season? He's resting on his laurels now. In terms of dominating games, what I meant by dominating games, Stewie, was possession-wise. If you look at the possession stats, Town generally are all over the possession. But it is.
I don't know what the possession was on Saturday, but this didn't feel like some of the other games where Ipswich had kept the ball for really long periods and sort of sucked the life out of the game. This was more of a counter-attacking game. This is a very, very different type of game. Burton, we've seen a lot of teams come to Portman Road and sort of park 9-10 men behind the ball and camp on the edge of their own box and frustrate Ipswich. And the Gillingham game was a prime example of that. Burton left wide open spaces. As I say, they try and play in your half, they try and play on top of you, but it leaves some major gaps in behind. And maybe getting that early goal inside a minute sort of increased that as well. But Ipswich were able to get in behind and exploit those gaps majorly. Even when the second goal went in, I was surprised that Burton sort of kept playing that way. To their credit, they sort of kept chasing. But every game is different. So this wasn't really a sort of possession game, was it? They didn't sort of keep the ball for long periods and pass it around. This was more of a rapid counter-attack transition sort of game, and credit to McKenna and the players for kind of executing that.
Just looking at the stats now, Town had 57% possession, so they did kind of dominate possession, and it's generally been around 65% possession-wise, 17 shots to 10 for Burton. Mike, Stu makes a valid point there. Now, we're all about positivity on this podcast,
yes.
But clearly we don't want to be knee-jerk, anoint Kieran McKenna as the next Alex Ferguson too early, despite his great start. And you could argue, in terms of those 10 games, that it's not exactly been the toughest start for Kieran McKenna. The games coming up, you look at March and you've got, Oxford, Portsmouth, Plymouth, all those sort of sides coming up in March. Is there an argument that McKenna is really doing what he should have done so far, and the tests really are yet to come?
Well, I obviously think we're going to get in the playoffs and win at Wembley. So, I mean, I don't really care less. I mean, how we do it. It's going to happen. So if I don't care what happens. No, of course, seriously. Stu is absolutely right. We lost at Bolton and we lost at Sheffield Wednesday, and you're going to have to start winning some of them games. Think places north of the Watford Gap, you're going to start winning some of these games, and places up and teams up high. And you're right. There's some big games to come. And my learned friend, Mr. Watson, who obviously I have a great admiration for, he's absolutely spot on. We need to win some of these bigger games. Has he done what we hoped he'd do? I think he's done. I think he's done what we looking at the list of teams we've beaten, etc. But that's not the point, really. I just think. I think he's done excellent since he's come in. There is a tough month coming up. After, a couple more games, there's a tough month ahead. But no, I think I don't know. By the time we get to some of these games, we're really bedded in, and it'll be really interesting to see how we attack the likes of what have we got: Wigan, Plymouth, Wickham. How we attack those teams. It's going to be really interesting what McKenna does.
It's the 3 games at the end of March that will make or break this. If they can get through these next 3. Cheltenham at home, Morecambe and Fleetwood away, with at least 2 wins out of those. Keep things ticking over. It's Lincoln at home, Portsmouth
at home.
Next 4 games. It's these 3 at the end of March: Portsmouth, Oxford, Plymouth, all in a row. That will tell us. That will tell us truly how big a progress is. But in no way, shape, or form, do not underestimate 7 wins in 10. No matter who it's against, how it's come. That's a remarkable return. That's they've won as many games under McKenna in the league as they had before he arrived under Cook/McGrill. That's remarkable.
And Easter looks tasty as well, doesn't it? Just looking ahead, Rotherham away on Good Friday, and then Wigan at home on Easter Monday.
Yeah,
there's some big games. Mike, in terms of you say their admiration for Stewie, that's not what you say to me when Stewie's not around. You change your tune there.
No, you're absolutely right. And obviously, you know, I mean, I do rather go with whoever's on the pod. I mean, Hutchie, for instance, you know, complete nightmare. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I sat next to him on Saturday. I mean, he was eating this huge, great donut at half time that he refused to even give me a little nibble off. And some of the stuff he comes out was ridiculous. But it's not for me to say because we all like him, you know, and he's a good lad. But I say it as I see it, I'm afraid.
Ego on Hutchie, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Stewie, any other notes from McKenna's first 10 games? We've been positive, we've been cautiously negative, and then we've been positive again. Anything else you want to mention before we move on?
No, I think we've talked a lot about sort of his demeanour and everything. As I've talked about the tactical adaptability, the man management. I'm cautiously excited and optimistic about what's ahead. But I've watched enough of Ipswich Town over the last 10, 15 years to know that there's always a blow, a disappointment around the corner. So you try not to invest and give yourself everything to it. But this does feel, whatever happens this season, it does feel like things are moving in the right direction again, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're always waiting for the sting in the tail, aren't you, with Town? Something to go wrong somewhere. Maybe, just maybe, after years of something always going wrong, it's not going to happen this time. Maybe this is the year, boys. Maybe.
Well, I think it is, and I don't really know. I think it is. I think we'll all be there, you know. And I've already. No one's taken that weekend off, are they? The League One playoff final. Well, if you have booked it off, Ross, which you probably have, you probably booked a big weekend in Milan or something. But you know, you better unbook it, my friend, because you know we got. And also, just like to say, love Stu and Andy's interview with McKenna. Of course, we all love that. And of course, the work. He's looking for a house in Woodbridge, or he mentioned Woodbridge and send. But I mean, Roy Keane lived. It was a something about Woodbridge. I mean, Keno could help him out with that because he lived at Woodbridge. I mean, you could. There's lots of other nice places, you know, that you can live in. I mean, look out your way, Heath. There's some nice big mansions, isn't there?
The Jewel in the Crown, Bury St Edmunds, Jewel in the Crown of Suffolk. Some very nice villages around here.
I love Woodbridge. Don't get me wrong. I just find it interesting.
Absolutely. If it was me moving to Suffolk, I'd be living South Wold, Walberswick sort of way, not Aldborough, but that kind of area. Stress, not Aldborough. Not there's anything wrong with Aldborough. It's just not my sort of place. Boys, in terms of excitement, before we move on to Cheltenham, something very exciting happened this morning. Made my Monday morning. I woke to news that Masters football, or Masters, as you would say around here, Masters football is back. Highlight of my kind of mid to late teens, early 20s, Masters football, not been around for years. If you've not seen it before, it was on Sky Sports, basically veteran players, 40 plus players, usually shown around Christmas, playing in these five-a-side arenas with blue plastic kind of pitches. It was brilliant. A highlight of Christmas for me, usually every year. That's what it says about my Christmases. And I thought it'd be fun, Mike. I'm going to come to you first because you're of a certain vintage, shall we say, more experience than the rest of us. I often say. To have a go at picking our Ipswich Town Masters side. So 5 players over the age of 40. How would you cook up that particular broth? You got any players come to mind?
Well, I certainly have, yes. I mean, I would certainly, yes. Who could I have in my Masters team over 40? I mean, bless old Richard Wrighty. I haven't spoken to him lately. I assume he's over 40. I'll have to give him a quick text before I put him in there. Yeah. I think Wrighty's over 40. I might have. I mean, Super Cooper, Paul Cooper. Of course, I'd have Super Coops in there. So I've got choice of goalies, really, from Fantastic. I mean, you know, George Burley. He's still got it, mate. I'll tell you, he would be an excellent Masters player, George. Fantastic player he'd be. You've got to have Butch in, haven't you? I mean, Butch, he's going to clatter everything in sight in a Masters. In such a small area, he can take 2 or 3 in one go. I'd have Butch in there, fantastic Butch. Russell Osborne, very good footballer, very good. He'd love that. He'd love that sort of element.
You're putting your faith in age here, my friend. So far,
I am. I don't care.
You're going 80s golden era, aren't you? You've got Burley, you've got Butcher, you've got Osman. Who else are you pulling in? Walkie.
Yes. Well, what's so funny about that? Yes, I'd have Walkie. He scored 100 goals in the 1981 season, my friend, before you lot were even born. So
I'm not disputing that John Walker's a great player. I'm just not sure. I don't know if you've ever watched Masters football, but the teams that do well tend to be those skewed towards more the younger.
I'm not just picking players. I'm not picking players who are 41 just because they can be younger. Quality. You can't quality over age, Mike. You can't get rid of quality.
Class is permanent, yeah.
And who would I? Well, I don't really. Let me go. Yes, I'm trying to think who I'd have. I suppose I could get Alan Brazil off Talk Sport. See if he.
Oh, come on, no way.
Well, Brazil was one of the best finishers Ipswich Town ever had. I mean, well, I don't care if you. I'm not interested how old he is. You could have him. Yes, he'd slide a few in. But if I'm not going for Alan Brazil, I would possibly. I don't know. No, is Benty over 40?
Yeah, he must be, isn't he? Is Darren Benty over 40?
Don't know if he is.
Is he?
Yeah, you see, he'd be on the bench for a couple of years. But I mean, so that'd be roughly my team. Yes, very 1980s. Yes, it is Heathy, very 1980s, but there's a lot of quality in that side. So, that's where I'd be at.
I mean, Alan Brazil, obviously, in his day, a fantastic finisher. I'm not sure now, Masters football, maybe whack him in goal. Stewie, give us some alternative names to the slightly more.
Are we doing this as kind of like a fantasy? They got to play like now. So, like you say, Alan Brazil. Are we talking Alan Brazil now, or are we talking like?
Well,
Alan Brazil?
no. It's Masters football. We want to keep it reality. I mean, otherwise it'd be a pointless question, wouldn't it? Because you just go.
I guess what sort of era are we talking then? If we're talking guys between, I tell you, of that sort of halcyon days, John Walk would still put his boots on now. I'm told, a little birdie tells me that the players' dinner that they went to recently, which I think John was part of, but it fell on the same night that he still plays football on a Thursday night. He still plays 5-a-side, 7-a-side. John Walk, he was still playing 11-a-side, I think, well into his sort of 40s, 50s. So I bet you'd still get a few minutes out of Walkie. Then we're probably looking more at that sort of 90s. Noughties era, aren't we? Kieran Dyer, Titus Bramble, Carlos Edwards, Darren Ambrose. He's got a rocket of a shot on him, isn't he? Everyone loves him. Masters football as well. Are these all two a bit young? Are they still?
You got to have Matt Holland, surely. If you're looking for a midfield general in this sort of scenario, I don't know how Matt Holland is. He looks like he's still about 25. But I'm having Matt Holland in my side all day long. Definitely Kieran Dyer as well. He's 40 plus, surely. Darren Bent, bit of a blow there that he's not actually old enough to qualify. I don't know. I'd stick up top in that case. Keep going, Stewie. Keep giving us names. Oh, Rossi, you've got some names to throw in, have you? You've done some research?
I've got my team. I've done my research. I'll let Stu continue. I've got my team.
No, go on.
Okay, I'm not actually going to have a goalkeeper. I'm putting Richard Naylor in goal because I think he can play. He played up front, played centre back during his time.
He did.
And I feel he could do a job in goal. Yeah. I don't think you need a goalie, really. He can just come out as a sweeper. I'm having Fabian Wilness in my team. I like Fabian. I love Fab. Of course, Matty Hollands is in all my teams. I love Matty Hollands. Pablo Canago is getting in this team.
Yes.
What a man. What a player. How many is that? Is that 3?
That's 4.
4. And the final man is Darren Curry.
Curry.
Good old Darren Curry.
How old's Darren now?
He is, I have got it up here somewhere. He is 47. So I'm sure he can still.
Darren Curry's strengths were kind of crossing, weren't they? I don't know how well suited that is to indoor Masters.
Step overs and stuff.
Yeah.
Free kicks are quite a big thing, aren't they, in Masters football? So.
Yeah,
I've got a great heading for you for Darren Curry. He once when he scored the winning goal for Ipswich against QPR back in about 1998, I think it was, something like that. And the headline on the front page of Green was "Curry stings the R's." And
that's his debut, I think.
I got a bit of trouble for that, as for being flippant, as I was described, being flippant with my language. But I mean, I thought it was good heading. I don't know what score was. I think, but I know he scored and we won.
I don't get it.
Well,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we'd get away with that now, Mike. Let me just say that.
No, well, there you go. That was the heading then. That seemed to go well. I might find it and put it up here in a minute.
I have another name.
Yeah,
if you want. Alan Lee.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he'd do well.
Alan Lee, he'd do well.
Cunago would be perfect, wouldn't he? When he's sort of back to goal, he's got I think he'd be great for Masters. Can we have Giovanni Dos Santos as well? It's a bit of a loose
young.
A loose
Still 34,
one.
mate.
Still young, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
What about Big Shefke?
No. Just no. Just no.
He'd run. I'd like to see him do the swan dive on plastic.
Another one here. Tommy Miller.
Yeah.
If it went to pens.
I think we've got the making of a good side there. I think Ipswich Town are going to win the Masters. I think we can anoint them now, boys.
Quite a few of those guys that I mentioned still play or have up until fairly recently all been playing Sunday League football in Ipswich. Dyer, Bramble, Edwards,
they all play for the same
team.
Yeah.
Witten. So
Witten Vets.
I think it's one thing picking players stylistically. We might need to sort of run a bit of a fitness check on some of these guys. I bet some have kept themselves in better shape than others.
I'll tell you what, Canago wouldn't get past Butcher very quickly. I'll tell you that right now. Well, he might try.
I mean, I suppose a smaller pitch.
Yes, exactly.
Less space to get away. Butcher would do some serious damage on that sort of pitch. Let's see it. We are going to see it. Hopefully, Town will enter a side. We'll have to find out, actually, boys, if they are going to enter a side and when it's going to happen, because that'd be tremendous. Should we move on then? We've done Masters football. We've done McKenna's first 10 games. We've done the win over Burton, which moves us smoothly on to the game against Cheltenham tomorrow night. Stewie, tee it up for us. Another game on paper, you'd say Town should win, need to win, but Cheltenham actually in surprisingly good form.
Yeah, I need to win, yes, should win. I think they've only lost one in their last 9, Cheltenham. They had a remarkable 5-5 draw at Wickham at the weekend. They beat Sunderland less than a fortnight ago. They've drawn against Wigan. They've drawn against Oxford during that run. So this is no gimme against Cheltenham. They're 15th in the league, but they're doing remarkably well since they've come into League One. They obviously won League Two with I think 80+ points last year, and have looked like they're going to stay in League One this time around. They've got Alfie May up front in fine form. He got 4 goals at the weekend. He's got 8 in 4. Proper big man, little man strike partnership. May's the guy who's sort of snaffling the goals, but Keon and Tete is 6'6" striker. He's a good foil for him. He seems to be sort of laying on the assist. He's on loan from Tottenham. So, another tough test for Ipswich. I'm intrigued to see what McKenna's game plan is for this one.
He's got a bespoke game plan for pretty much every side. I'd love to know how far in advance he's got that game plan as well. Because as you talked earlier, Stu, about pointing players at games, I'd love to know in terms of his diary.
He was very clear after going into the game at the weekend that I'm not looking at these two as a pair. Where everyone was talking about sort of Saturday, Tuesday home games, and I'm not looking at these two as a pair. I'm not getting far ahead. And then after the game on Saturday, we brought up, have you seen the Cheltenham result? And he said, yeah, 5-5. That's going to make, I've got plenty of footage to go through tomorrow, sort of thing. So I'm sure he's had, I'm sure he's given it some thought, but I reckon that, it was probably Sunday when he really started getting in depth on Cheltenham, and they haven't got a big sort of window. They had a whole week to build up to Burton and come up with a game plan. There's going to need to be a bit of rest and recovery as well. So there's not going to be as much time to come up with something for this one.
Can I also say, it's just reminded me actually, in terms of preparedness, another quote from McKenna that caught my eye before the weekend, I think it was, about the weather and getting weather reports as to what the weather might be doing come game time and how that might affect the pitch.
Yeah, so it's not something he's had to think of at sort of elite level. Premier League games are played in big stadiums that are sort of sheltered bowls, and wind is never really in effect. But he said that's something that he's adapting to in League One. And I'll give you another little insight actually. And this wasn't this was before the mics were recording after the game on Saturday. But he came in and talked about they had to bring the right side of the pitch at Portman Road in by about a foot because of how muddy it had got in those conditions. And, how that sort of, he was really, he was annoyed about that because every yard makes a difference and he wants the pitch to be big. And especially on that right side with Wes Burns being sort of his outlet and his pace, those are the sort of details he's talking about, losing a yard of pitch down the right-hand side.
That's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, it's the term is marginal gains, isn't it? Which the Sky cycling team brought in, and that's what I get the feeling that we're getting with McKenna. Every little detail, no detail is too small. I mean, with Sky, they used to bring in their own beds and pillows for the cyclists to sleep on, because that extra kind of 10, 15 minutes of quality sleep a night was, going to be important. All adds up in terms of performance. Mike, in terms of the team for Cheltenham, and I should mention that one defeat in 9, I think that only defeat was to Rotherham, who obviously are right up there. So
yeah,
no
1-0 as well.
1-0, yeah. Absolutely. The back 8, we've said, is pretty much set in stone now, as long as Evans, that knee injury isn't too solid. So we know he's likely to rotate up top. What would you do with that front 3, Mike?
I would bring in, I'd just like to say, by the way, I think any team that draws 5-5 must be awfully difficult to sort of try and prepare yourself for the next game. I mean, is their defence crap, or is their attack unbelievable, or were Wycombe's, is Wycombe's defence hopeless, or, what earth went on? 5-5. And I think they were 3-1 down, Cheltenham, and oh God, how on earth how do you prepare for a team that can play those sort of fixtures? I would personally, what my biggest fascination is going to be tomorrow night is, does Jackson start? Now, that's going to be my biggest fascination. Personally, I think he should. Who do you play alongside him? I don't think he'll play Piggott. I think he'll play Bon, personally, tomorrow night. That's who I think he'll play. And it wouldn't surprise me if Chaplin starts tomorrow night. But he's going to keep you guessing, isn't he? Who on earth? Again, with I think Andy again. I'll talk about Andy. Obviously not here, so I can say what I like about him, which is nice. But no, on Saturday, is he right? He's tweeted, "How do you start picking this team? I've given up trying to guess because you just don't really know." Personally, I'll be fascinated to see if Jackson starts, and I hope he does, because I think he deserves to. I would pick Bon personally for this game, and possibly bring Chaplin. Would I bring Selina in? Maybe as well, yeah.
How's that working though? If are you playing Jackson and Bon as a front 2 then, or?
Well, I played Jackson wide. I did second half, I think, probably. Yeah. He played left down the left second half. He played wide most of the game before going into the middle. I'd have Jackson as a wide player, and I'd probably have Chaplin in behind there. Would I place? They'd be my people. I'd bring Bon and Chaplin in, and I'd be interested to see if he's going to play Jackson again.
Okay, I won't ask Ross about this because we know he doesn't care about lineups. Clearly, Stewie, carry on.
Yeah, go on. I was going to say, if there was a feeling that Jackson wasn't suited to the opposition, I don't think McKenna would have any hesitation in taking him out, as well as he played Saturday. Yeah. But I think he is suited to this game. If you look at some of the goals that Cheltenham have conceded, they look very vulnerable to a high press. If they can, people will remember Cheltenham from the reverse fixture, and it was those big Ben Tozer long throws into the box that Ipswich eventually succumbed to. He's gone now. He's gone to Wrexham. They play a bit, Cheltenham. They mix it up, but they do like to try and play out from the back. And I think that high press is going to be key. And I think Jackson is the key man to that. So he goes again, but I think he'll mix it up again with that front 3. Did Piggott do enough on Saturday? Is he suited to this opposition? Not so sure. I think it will be back to Jackson with Selina and Chaplin in behind. Chaplin to give that high press energy, that goal threat. And I think Selina can provide that moment of magic, whether it be a through ball, a cross. They look vulnerable down that side, that sort of that right-hand side of Cheltenham. So Selina and Jackson sort of interchanging, sort of Jackson running the channel out to the left, which allows Selina to kind of drift into the middle pockets a little bit more. We'll see.
You know what's going to happen, don't you? 6:45 tomorrow night. Tyrese Simpson up front. Right, let's do predictions then, Rossi. I'll start with you because we know you don't care about lineups. You care about scores though. What's going to happen tomorrow night?
5-5 Cheltenham last game. That's not going to happen.
I thought you were going to say 5-5 then.
No. I did watch that game back just before we came on the pod, and Wycombe's defence, we already know they're a bit bad because we scored 4 against them when we played them at Adams Park. But I want to go 2-0. I think 2-0 is a fair result. I think I'm going to look out for Alfie May because he scored 4 goals in that game. So he's a player to look out for. He's had a really good season for Cheltenham, 18 goals in all comps this season. But 2-0, I think it's going to be a fair scoreline. And have a clean sheet because we're not conceding a goal ever again until probably Tomorrow, they will concede, maybe.
Solid as a rock at the back, mate. Mike, what are you saying?
4-1.
4-1.
Yeah, and we'll concede a goal because I'm getting fed up of us talking about not ever conceding a goal ever again for the rest of the season, which is an absolutely ridiculous thing to talk about because, of course, we're going to, and we're talking about it as though we're going to. We won't concede any goals in the playoff final, mind you, because we're going to win that 3-0, and that'll be a comfortable one. But leading up to it, we are going to concede goals again. We mustn't think we're never going to concede a goal ever, and it will be, I don't know, their goalie will score in the last minute or something with a penalty. We'll be 4-0 up, and he'll come up and make it 4-1. And that's it, really. So we'll win we'll win comfortably. 4-1.
2-0, 4-1. A slightly, I'm not sure that was how serious that 4-1 is, but Stewie, give us a serious prediction.
Oh, head says it might be 1-1. It might be a draw, and we'll have to get our head around that. But heart says the Ipswich quality will come through, and they'll win 2-1. So I'll say 2-1. I'll go with that. I'll go with
2-1.
heart.
Okay, we've got 2-1. Was it 2-0, 4-1? And Hutchie, actually, breaking news, has literally just sent me a message saying, can you put another 50k of my cash on Morsey to score tomorrow, please? He's obviously persisting with that. He says it returns 350k. It's
coming. It's coming. He had a big chance.
Getting close, isn't it? Getting close. Right then, boys, that brings us to the end of the podcast this week. Before we go, I must check, and it's not bereft of me. It's not good of me to ask you as a manager. How you've all come through the storms. Stewie, I know you've had a casualty. Your fence has gone. My back fence looking decidedly ropey, a bit like a Paul Cook performance earlier in the season. Stewie, that's going to cost you, isn't it?
Sorry, I just sniggered at you saying your back fence is decidedly ropey. It's pathetic.
Child.
Yeah, it's gone. I'm just looking out my window now. Yeah, I was out there with an axe and a saw and a drill yesterday, sort of getting the remnants of that taken down. So, but yeah, other than that, all good.
Are you fenceless now then?
I'm fenceless.
That's going to cost you, mate. I'll tell you what, the fencers, they're going to be in high demand.
That's the trade to be in at the moment.
Absolutely, roofers or fencers. Mike, we know you live in a mansion surrounded by high security walls, etc. I assume that all of your infrastructure is still standing.
It is. I had all my tradesmen over yesterday morning to fix it all. I gave them I've got a button I press if I want immediate assistance. I had a little trouble with the conservatory because it's quite a big conservatory, as I'm sure you imagine. Yeah. A little bit of flapping of the old plastic on top of there was soon rectified, and no, everything else was fine. The third of my large oak trees lost quite a few branches, but again, I've got my friend around the corner will be coming in this afternoon, and the swimming pool cover blew off, but that's off. I found that was in next door's garden, so that's all been put back together.
You know that button you press if you want immediate assistance, that's more for your age, isn't it? If you have a fall.
Fall down the stairs. Yeah. If I have a trip, yes, that's there as well. It's just up here. It is somewhere. Just here.
Yeah, you can't just keep pressing it, Mike, just because your fence has come down. Rossi, any damage to Casa del Rosco?
No, I just put my bins in the garage because I was worried they were going to fly away somewhere. So before it got bad, Eunice, I put them in the garage. So
okay, we've
come to tell the kids when you're older.
Yeah. I
survived Storm Eunice. I had to put my wheelie bins in the garage. It's quite frightening.
The great storm of 2022. Obviously, the great storm of 2022 is Kieran McKenna's Ipswich Town, as it stands, boys, blowing through opposition like a storm. Hopefully, they'll do that again tomorrow night. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Usual reminders, please, to support our sponsor, Manscaped. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery on all that excellent stuff there. And follow us across social media, especially YouTube. We're really trying to build YouTube at the moment. So Kings of Anglia on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And also leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you can, because it helps people discover us visibility-wise in the charts. Ipswich Town go again tomorrow night, as we will do later on this week. Hope you have a great start to the week. Enjoy the game if you're going, and we will speak to you next time.